The Story of the Early Man 2. Hello friends, today I'm going to tell you an interesting story about early man. How did they discover fire? Let us know about it. The early humans perhaps saw a forest fire. On going near it, they felt the heat and were afraid of it. They soon learned that the animals were also afraid of the fire. The early men thus used the fire to keep themselves warm as well as to keep the dangerous animals away from them. The early humans must have struck two stones that gave a spark, which must have fallen on the dry grass and caught fire. Since then, the early men started lighting fire by rubbing two stones. They could now cook food, keep the dangerous animals away, and keep themselves warm. How did they learn to cook food? It happened accidentally. Perhaps a piece of flesh fell in the fire, and when the man ate it, he found it tasty. Thus, early man began to cook food. Do you know? Early man mainly settled along rivers as both water and fertile soil were available to grow crops. The early man might have noticed plants growing in the neighborhood. He might have seen the seeds that fell on the ground sprouting and growing into a plant. He started sowing seeds to grow plants. This was the beginning of farming. Thus, the man became a food producer from a food gatherer. This was the beginning of a settled life. The early man began to live at one place. Now he felt he need not to go in search of food, so he grew crops, stored the surplus grains and made baskets and pots to store the grains. This was the beginning of a community life, and villages came into existence. The early man began to domesticate animals. Perhaps the dog was the first animal to be domesticated. Sheep, goats and cows were the other animals domesticated by man. These animals provided man with meat, milk and wool. Invention of veal changed the life of early man completely. The early man did not live at one place and had to walk long distances. He used animals to carry things from one place to another. The early man made rafts. This helped him to carry loads. On land, he used sledges, which could move only on smooth or level ground. The early man might have observed that logs could be rolled easily if they were cut into smaller pieces. This might have led to the discovery of the wheel. These wheels were put under the sledges. Thus, carts came into existence. Now, it made land travel easier and faster for them. The invention of the wheel also led to the invention of the potter's wheel, which was used for making earthen pots. Amazing fact! The invention of the wheel was a turning point in the life of the early man. The potter's wheel is still being used to make clay pots and decorative items. Stones were the main tools and weapons for the early man until copper was accidentally discovered. Thousands of years later, man discovered iron, which was stronger than copper. He now developed stronger and better tools which could be used for farming, hunting, and for other occupations. Thus, man began to produce more food and other items of daily use more than the amount that was required. This led to the starting of trade. Thus, the barter system was introduced, in which the early man exchanged the excess he had to obtain things he did not possess. Let us summarize. The discovery of fire was accidental. Striking of stones produced fire. The discovery of the wheel made travel easier and faster for them. Farming led to permanent settlements. Man learned to domesticate animals for food, wool, and milk. The invention of the wheel also led to the invention of the potter's wheel. The beginning of trade was in the form of the barter system.